What does every new year have in store for us? Another 365 days of Nutrabolt IPO rumors, obviously. So I'd like to thank the Austin Business Journal for carrying on this decade-long tradition of sporadically mentioning Nutrabolt IPO rumors after each new major business milestone has been reached. The first IPO rumor showed up in an August 2014 PricePlow blog post after our founder Mike Roberto noticed a spike in search traffic related to Nutrabolt receiving a significant minority investment from private equity firm MidOcean Partners. Then at the end of 2022, I predicted Nutrabolt would go public within the next year after receiving an $863 million investment from Keurig Dr Pepper. But what major business milestone did Nutrabolt recently reach that restarted these IPO rumors heading into 2025? Nutrabolt just exceeded $1 billion in trailing 12 months retail sales data. And you might be wondering, how elusive is that feat? Within the ingestible CPG categories of food, beverage, and supplements, there's only about 80 total brands that currently exceed $1 billion in annual retail sales. Just to provide a bit of context, in a typical large grocery store like HEB down here in Texas, there are several thousands of unique CPG brands across those ingestible CPG categories. And finally, before any Circana or whatever kind of retail sales data nerds kind of run into my comment section to proclaim it doesn't count because Nutrabolt is a portfolio of brands, just know that C4 Energy was a hero SKU of Cellucor that spun off into its own platform, meaning it's technically the same brand. But maybe that's a good transition to ensure everyone is on the same page about the current Nutrabolt brand portfolio. In 2002, Nutrabolt, legally known as Woodbolt Distribution, was founded with the launch of the sports nutrition brand Cellucor. And then 9 years later, Cellucor launched the C4 pre workout product, which is currently and has been for much of the last decade the leading pre workout brand globally. In early 2017, Nutrabolt acquired Scivation, the maker of the top selling post workout recovery brand Xtend, but it was a year later when Nutrabolt made the single most important decision in the company's history to date by launching its carbonated C4 energy drinks, which, as I just mentioned, essentially forced that hero SKU of Cellucor to be spun off into its own platform brand. Additionally, Nutrabolt acquired a significant minority stake in Bloom Nutrition last January, having the strategic foresight to allocate a portion of that KDP capital beyond simply fueling the energy drink segment growth. And by all accounts, a year later, that strategic investment decision has paid off royally, especially after Nutrabolt helped Bloom successfully launch its own energy drink about 6 months ago. In fact, within my July 2024 content analyzing that Bloom product strategy decision, I stated Bloom has done a great job at not only building digital community, but also unlocking the more difficult part of generating offline or analog value from it. If you combine that with the beverage innovation and commercial expertise of Nutrabolt and KDP's distribution muscle, you get results like what Bloom posted this week about selling 100,000 cans in less than a week at Target. After trying the Bloom sparkling energy product, I'm fairly confident that retention will be good and sales momentum should build within Target and as they expand distribution after the retail exclusivity period ends. So this could become one of those huge successes like Alani Nu or Ghost that blasted those brands straight into the top 25 after only 1 year in market. And as I predicted, with KDP being impressed by the standout launch Bloom Energy Drinks had at Target last summer, it decided in October to sign a national sales and distribution deal with the female forward position brand that began officially this month. But while Bloom might have been the first significant minority but strategic investment, I don't see it being the last. And that's because since that Nutrabolt and KDP deal content, I've been forthcoming on my belief that the executive leadership team is strategically focused on building a health and wellness focused version of Unilever. But while some portfolio expansion might come from internal brand development and or kind of brand or line extensions, which I'll talk about shortly, I believe most will happen from accretive deal making and majority acquisitions that extends Nutrabolt into more key consumer driven wellness platforms. And I know basically every time that I mention something like that in content, I'll quickly get asked for my thoughts on potential targets. So, how about I kind of indulge that a bit, starting with my assumptions of the Nutrabolt investment criteria? Firstly, Nutrabolt would like to avoid cannibalizing its existing customer base, brand portfolio, and the hero kind of function or benefit platforms of those brands. But that being said, I'll kind of throw out a caveat here because I think that the hydration category is way too important long term to protect and save the Scivation Xtend brand. Next, the ideal kind of deal size preference would be on the lower end of the middle market. Brand targets would possess growth above categorical average and not be institutionalized in any real way yet. Then, in terms of attractive consumer driven wellness platforms, I'd expect them to be interested in kind of healthy longevity need states like brain or cognitive health and then gut health, but also kind of the mega categories like protein and hydration. So then which brands could be potential fits for Nutrabolt? And I'll maybe kind of start by going backwards through my platform list, mostly because I already suggested in a content piece from last May that Element should consider a strategic investment from Nutrabolt, an industry leader that has the expertise and resources to enable the hydration supplement brand to scale more effectively in its current format expansion and channel diversity phase. And then with the potential protein target, I'm going to kind of skip over that one for right now because it requires some internal brand or line extension discussion to properly sort out the most desirable and complementary format and protein input source. But moving on to gut health, it might be difficult for Nutrabolt to find a target here that fits the deal size preference and not being materially institutionalized yet because super high quality brands typically must raise capital early to fund substantial clinical research. As an example, I know that Seed Health is currently soliciting acquisition offers, but the probiotics brand has venture capital investors that want a lofty exit valuation that's north of $1 billion. Similarly, longevity consumer biotech startup Timeline would be super interesting, but already has the backing of Nestle Health Science and L'Oreal. It's just tough overall to find gut health brands that are doing something truly proprietary and unique to generate long term value, as most are just kind of piggybacking off of clinically studied probiotics from, say, a supplier like ADM. And I haven't seen tons of companies like Thorne Health Tech that have amassed a substantial gut microbiome data set from at home health tests. But lastly, on that list, the brain or cognitive health space is one that Nutrabolt has dabbled in for many years through different formats, with the most notable effort being C4 Smart Energy. And while I've probably consumed more of that energy drink than any other person on earth because it tastes great and it contains cognizin, it has admittedly always felt like Nutrabolt struggled to balance commercializing multiple C4 energy drink line extensions. So I think they'd be better off acquiring a brand focused solely on kind of productivity, with the brand Nutonic being a solid option, but only if Nutrabolt is confident it can help transition the creator packaged goods brand away from that key man risk. And now let's talk about the immense level of product expansion Nutrabolt had in 2014. According to a recent statement made by CEO Dos Cunningham, Nutrabolt launched 166 new SKUs last year and doesn't have any plans of slowing down in 2025. The robust innovation pipeline this year is said to include new SKUs across both beverage and powder formats, with Cellucor entering new categories. And a hint of what's to come will be Nutrabolt further leveraging its collaboration with Hershey Company's brand portfolio, which, hint, hint, brings us back kind of full circle to that discussion around potential protein platform investment or acquisition targets. So, with Nutrabolt extending the Cellucor brand deeper into whey protein powders and beverages with the help of Hershey's, or I mean, abandoning the energy platform focus of the C4 brand, which is a big kind of head scratcher move for me to enter into whey protein powders and beverages, again, with the help of Hershey's, Where could the protein input and or format gaps potentially be within the brand portfolio? And I'd usually beeline straight to protein bars, but something tells me that the Nutrabolt CEO is still swearing under his breath at the initial FitJoy swing and miss from 2016. Instead, maybe Nutrabolt would prefer to target legendary foods and its protein-packed nostalgic formats that have a more diverse occasion profile compared to protein bars. Moreover, Nutrabolt might consult with KDP or the other way around happens for an ideal target within the protein RTD beverages market, achieving a two birds with one stone portfolio gap filling kind of outcome. And why I mention that potential M&A tag team effort is because Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, and KDP can and should start using Monster Beverage, Celsius Holdings, and Nutrabolt as proxy investment vehicles. The reasoning could be to get around antiquated beverage distribution rules or antitrust concerns within key beverage categories, or even a more practical reason like providing the big three beverage portfolio giants with valuable exposure into emerging consumer wellness trends, but holding those earlier stage brands within a less bureaucratic organizational structure that can properly foster commercial growth. But for this final part of the content, I want to quickly explain why my original Nutrabolt IPO prediction several years ago failed to materialize, but why things will most likely be different in 2025. And it all centers around my earlier assumption that, quote, uncertainty in the stock market clears during the back half of 2023 and the IPO floodgates open. As we understand now, that turned out to be mostly incorrect, or at least the most important part was incorrect. And that's because while the back to back gains of over 20% in 2023 and 2024 were the best performance for the benchmark S&P 500 index since the late 90s, the number of IPOs slowed even further from when I made that statement at the end of 2022. This market freeze was arguably the central reason why my prediction didn't materialize in 2023. And Nutrabolt CEO Dos Cunningham has even confirmed recently that plans got stalled due to external factors affecting the IPO markets over the last 2 years. But given that market windows open and close quickly, it requires companies to start preparing well in advance to be in a position of strength when opportunity arises. So maybe here's the silver lining of it all. That earlier market freeze allowed Nutrabolt to go through most of the exhaustive process of readying itself internally to become a public company. So with the finance community overwhelmingly expecting the IPO markets to regain momentum in 2025, why shouldn't this be the year we see stock ticker C4 begin trading on the New York Stock Exchange? If it does happen, maybe Nutrabolt will help me cross off a bucket list item by inviting me out to ring the bell on the first day of trading. But whether my Nutrabolt IPO prediction ultimately becomes true or not, I still think the C4 energy drink is a sleeping giant. KDP is a great sales and distribution partner, and this new deal making dynamic will create a much longer growth runway for the company. But I hope you enjoyed the first principles thinking that went into my latest YouTube video. If you did, can you do me a favor by hitting that like button? That quick and free action helps YouTube know my content is worth spreading to more people. Also, we're getting really close to reaching my next subscriber goal, and it would be great if you join me on this journey. But to do that, we need to fix the fact that slightly more than 3/4 of you that are watching this video right now are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, and that hurts my feelings. Regardless, I want to thank you for giving me some of your attention and time, and I'll see you on the next one.